You know what my favorite part of traveling is maybe an unpopular opinion, but coming home. I mean, I love traveling. I love being able to go and see family or just explore someplace new. But when you have built a life and a home that you adore, there's nothing better than coming home, right? There's nothing better than sleeping in your own bed. There's nothing better than showering in your own shower, all that stuff. So it got me thinking this morning as I was kind of jumping back into my business routine. Like, shouldn't that be the same? As nice as it is to take time away and rest and refresh, shouldn't we love coming back home and into the routine of our business? I challenge that you should. I mean, yes, it's nice to take a break, but you should love your business as much as you love the rest that you get when you're away from your business. So that's what I wanted to kind of talk about with you guys this morning. I'm still drinking my first cup of coffee, and between you and me, it's been 2 days since I had a cup of coffee, so I'm loving this. But I just wanted to talk about this morning and why I think it's so important that you do build a routine in a business that feels like coming home. But before we dive into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss a tutorial or upload. Okay, so I don't have any quotes this morning. I spent the last couple of days riding in a car. I am blessed to have a husband who does the bulk of the driving when we do a road trip. I love just having the freedom to be able to shift the way I'm sitting and just all the things. Like, and typically one of the things that I would love to be able to do on a road trip is kind of be planning and thinking about stuff for my business, honestly. I know that sounds like weird, like I'm supposed to be on vacation. Why am I thinking about that? But we've talked the last couple of weeks about how rest and refreshing and relaxation can really kind of get you inspired. And like, same thing about just actually being forced to just sit in a car for, in our case, 14 hours. And, there's not a whole lot going on. So my brain starts working and thinking about you guys and my business because that's what I love. And as much as, taking some time away, it was a working trip for me. I was still working at my corporate job, but I really didn't do a whole lot for the business. As you guys know, as I talked about, I was batch creating and scheduling things out in advance. So all the emails, all the social posts, the videos, everything that's been posting the last week or two have been scheduled in advance. I did have one client call, and that was actually kind of fun to do while I was on vacation. But when it comes to like the planning and just getting excited for new things in the business, that's kind of what the time in the car was for me. It gave me some time to really just kind of ruminate and think on things. I wasn't writing things down, so I was just letting things move around in my brain. And I don't know if you guys ever do that. Like, I have a tendency to, every time an idea pops into my mind, I write it down, or of course, for me, I grab my phone and I go to Trello and I immediately write it down. But that's not really super available to me on this particular drive because we're driving through dead zones. And while, if you didn't know this, you can make certain Trello boards available offline, I don't grab my phone as readily in that situation. And so what it does is just kind of let things move around in my mind and let me kind of work my way to more of like a thoughtful plan before I start writing things down. And I'm kind of the type of person that as soon as I get any idea, like I said, I write it down, but it's not fleshed out. And so I have a tendency sometimes to never really go back to those things. Just me, or do you do that too? Or I kind of never go back to those things because they were just like fleeting thoughts and I wrote too many of them down. And so then I don't really know what to do with them. But when I give myself that space to just really kind of think through things and let it kind of evolve a little bit in my mind before I really start planning an action for it, I don't know, sometimes it takes me to a really interesting place, which in this case is culminating in a shift in my email strategy. So this is a side note. I will come back to the original topic, I promise. But I've been thinking about changing up my email strategy for a while because I do get a fair number of subscribers from here. And obviously here on the channel, I do a couple of different things. I do the podcast here where we talk about all kinds of business stuff and talking about our thoughts on what other business coaches and mentors are talking about, things like that. I have my Faith and Focus podcast, which if you don't know is on Wednesdays, and that is specifically designed with my fellow Christian entrepreneurs in mind. But then on Fridays, what I started my YouTube channel doing, I do my tutorials. And honestly, at this point, they're probably like, I don't know, 75% Trello and then 25% other stuff. And a lot of the subscribers that I get from here are Trello specific. They're coming to me because they love Trello too, or they're getting started with Trello. They jump in for a Trello template and all of that. And I realized that, while over the last year or so, I've been getting really consistent with my email, which I talked about with you guys just before I took the break from the podcast. And I had built a structure for my emails that worked really well for me. It was structured around taking pieces from each of those videos that I post and then going a little bit deeper in the email. And I know that that helped me be way more consistent because it wasn't me trying to come up with yet another new thing to say in the same week, right? It was really helpful. But I also am realizing and recognizing that a lot of the people who come and join my email list don't even watch the podcast. They don't watch Faith and Focus. They only watch the tutorials and all they care about is Trello. And look, I get it, right? Because I love me some Trello. So I've been thinking about this for a while and knowing that I needed to change things up. And then I had the most amazing experience last Wednesday. So I don't know if I've talked about this much here on the channel yet, but I have switched my email platform a little bit last year, I want to say, end of last year. I was using OmniSend to Kit, or what used to be called ConvertKit, but now it's called Kit. And Kit put on this amazing summit. So they had an in-person conference actually up here in Boise where I live, but I wasn't here and it was out of my budget to attend it live. But they did a virtual summit on Wednesday. And even though I was, again, on my trip, I attended it because, or at least most of it, because they were bringing together some really amazing minds to talk about some really awesome topics. And one of them was one of my favorites who we have talked about here on the podcast more than once, Pat Flynn. He was like the last one that they talked to. He was, I guess, I don't know if you would call him like a keynote, but it kind of felt that way because he was the last one. And he talked about some of the concepts from his new book, Lean Learning, which I started listening to and I'm already loving it. But one of the things that they did in this virtual summit, which is different than like any of the other like virtual summit conference kind of things I've attended before, because usually those are just like kind of a replay of what happened live, right? And that's not what Kit did. Kit did like a full-on virtual summit. These speakers came in and did like a virtual Zoom. They each had like an hour, I guess, with the host. And they were talking about all this stuff, but like live, like a Zoom call. And towards the end, they did a Q&A, but even more than just letting you post your questions in the chat or in a Q&A, you had the opportunity to come on stage and actually interact with these speakers. And you guys, I actually did that with Pat. I actually got to ask Pat my question virtually, face to face, got his response, which I have to say was what I needed to hear. It wasn't anything that I didn't already know somewhere in my mind, but like I kind of needed to hear it. And just like I've said before on this podcast, and I think on my Success Through Community podcast, sometimes it matters the voice that you hear it from. And like hearing it from myself was not enough. I needed to hear it from somebody that I respect like that. And so I'm making some big changes. And so as I'm coming back into my routine, see, I'm coming back to the topic. I promised I would. That is something that I am super inspired and excited to jump into. So you can see in this moment how what I was talking about in the last couple of weeks, how like that rest can lead to such a level of inspiration. I mean, I didn't do anything on my trip that was like super inspiring, except for attending that summit, I guess. But because I rested, because I took a break, I feel more energy to jump into tackling something that can be a little overwhelming. I mean, when you're changing something up in your business, there's a lot that goes with that. And it's going to require some changes to my routine because I have a very set schedule of when I do things. That's how I stay consistent, right? And sane in a lot of cases. But, it's something that is worth doing. And it also, is going to require some technical stuff because now I need to change up some things in my email platform as far as like routing people to the emails that they want to see and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of that's going to be going on that's going to add into my routine. But because I have built, and this is me coming back to the topic, because I have built a routine that I love, but that also has room for flexibility, I'm excited about this instead of feeling like I'm going back to the drawing board and I'm starting all over. And so I want to talk about like, how do you build a structure? How do you build a routine that can be both of those things? A routine that you absolutely love coming back to, but that has the room to grow and pivot and shift with you and with your business. So we've talked about a lot of these concepts in the past, but I want to just bring them together into this one conversation because it really is important to help you building better habits and creating that routine. So the first thing that you want to think about, and this is, I'm just going to say right now, like normally my videos are a little more structured. I have notes in front of me, like make sure I don't miss any of the points that I want to bring up. This is completely off the cuff today. It's edited, as you can see, because it's still kind of early actually for me this morning. And like I said, still the first cup of coffee. So my brain is kind of running a little bit faster than like the rest of me has caught up to. But I'm just doing this off the cuff because this is just the reality of what I'm realizing and feeling in the moment as I come back. So the components of building this kind of routine, something that you absolutely love coming home to, but that also has the ability to adapt and shift with you, are, in my opinion, these things. So first off, it's making sure that you are including things that you love doing in your routine. So filming videos for you guys, and honestly, even editing them. I know editing can be kind of monotonous, but honestly, and this is not a plug, but ever since I started using Descript for my editing, it's gotten so much easier for me. And so I do still spend some time with it because I want to make sure that I'm making the videos as engaging as possible and, not feeling super chopped up and edited. But at the same time, like using a tool that makes my life easier, makes that activity or that task that can be really time consuming and monotonous, just more fun. So if you are doing video content and you're editing and you don't feel that way about your editing platform, then maybe we should talk more about Descript because maybe it'll do the same for you. But this is not a plug, so I'm going to move on from that. But filming videos, even editing the videos, and then creating the content around them, the social media posts that I do that help to point back over to these videos, the email that I do currently on Wednesdays, but again, see before this is going to shift a bit, the email that I send out to my existing students in the academy. These are all the things that are part of my content creation routine. And to be honest, like as a business owner in this day and age, with the exception of the like actual delivery of your product or your service, because obviously that is your business, the rest of it pretty much is like the marketing. And I think that's why, like for the longest time, I dreaded coming to that part of my business. And early on, that's like the part of your business, right? Because you don't have any clients when you first get started. If you're still in that place of your business where you don't yet have clients, and so everything you do is around the marketing and you're dreading it and just struggling with it, then what that tells me is that you need to find the things that you love that you can bring into your routine. Now, we've talked before about letting go of things that aren't serving you, and I think that that's absolutely part of this. And for me, that was like stepping away from the Facebook aspect of things, Facebook groups and all of that. Is different for different people, right? I still have the stuff that I post on Instagram cross post over to Facebook, but like I really don't give any attention to Facebook in that way anymore. And I certainly don't have my Facebook group anymore because honestly, it was like pulling teeth. I don't think that the people in the group had any desire to be there any more than I had a desire to run it. And I will absolutely take some responsibility for that because I'm certain that because I didn't love it, I was not creating an environment or a group that they really were inspired and excited to be a part of. So totally take responsibility for that. But I also think that, especially during the pandemic, we went through such a time of online socialization, and that was literally all we had. And so that was a huge boom for the Facebook group time, right? That was the time. And I know a lot of people who built entire businesses on not even just having their Facebook group as the core of their marketing and all of that, their strategy, but literally that like helping other people create Facebook groups to do that was their entire business. And I've watched as they have now, they're still doing that, but they're shifting a little bit away from that too, because I think they're seeing as well that like the appetite for being in Facebook groups is just dwindling. It doesn't mean that our need for community is dwindling. I still think we need that a lot. And so I address that in the academy in different ways. But for me, the idea of constantly trying to keep a Facebook group engaged and excited and active was just way too much. It was energy draining. And honestly, I felt like I was pouring more fluff into it in order to try to make something happen, but it wasn't at all what was going to serve my clients or serve my business in any way. So it was a total waste for me. And so, yes, I absolutely dropped that. And actually, Pat mentioned that because he was talking about, somebody asked him after me if because he still does community. Obviously, he's got the SPI community, the Smart Passive Income community, which I'm not a part of, but like, I don't know, I'm thinking about it. But he doesn't do that on Facebook anymore. And I didn't realize he'd actually had kind of like a falling out with Facebook because, just like everybody else, like if you've ever had an issue with like your Facebook ads account or, your business page getting hacked and like Facebook just really wasn't helping you out. He kind of went through a similar thing, I guess, and I didn't know that. And so it kind of soured him towards Facebook in general. And so he doesn't even encourage having your community on a platform like Facebook, which I totally agree, but for even different reasons. But the point is that I took something that, I really, really, really did not enjoy in my business. I would have loved it if it had just organically started to spin out into this great community, but it just wasn't. And so I hated it, dropped it. But it's not just about dropping the things that you don't like. It's about making sure that your routine is built around the things that you do love. And so for some people, that's going to be creating videos and stuff like what I'm doing. For others, that would be absolutely in the column of hate it. And so then you probably should stop doing it. And I know that sounds weird for me to post a YouTube video and say, stop creating YouTube content. But I only mean that if creating YouTube content is draining you. If it's not something that is inspiring you and that fires you up and gets you excited and honestly plays to your natural strengths, then no, you shouldn't be doing it. There are absolutely other ways that you can engage with and communicate with your audience. And you need to find the one that makes you excited when you get back home from a trip, that makes you come home from vacation and say, ugh, I get to make another video, or I get to write another blog, or whatever it is that you're doing. So I think that to me is like the number one component. But I think also building something that has the structure so that you know exactly where each activity belongs, that you don't feel like when you get home, oh, I immediately need to do all the things, plan the entire week. This is one of those things that I feel, it works for some people. It's how some people's brains work, that they batch, create, and schedule out their entire week all in one day. And if that is you, if that works well for you, awesome. More power to you. There are definitely times and weeks when that works for me too, when I'm feeling inspired. But usually I only do that when I know I have a busy week ahead in my corporate life and I don't want to lose consistency by being late getting my email written or whatever. But typically I kind of create as I go when I can. I mean, obviously the video has to get created in advance because I need time to edit it and all of that. But Instagram posts, they can be done the day of or the day before. The emails, same thing. They don't necessarily need to be written like on the Saturday before and then everything's scheduled out for the week. It's about figuring out your natural rhythm and what works for you and then building that into a habit strategy. So here's where I would bring in the idea of habit stacking and habit building to help you as you get into this routine. Because even if you follow your natural rhythms and even if you do the things that you absolutely love doing, it doesn't mean that it's easy to stick with it every single day. No matter what, something is going to come up in your life that is going to get in the way of when you planned on doing it, and now you have to scramble, or you're just not going to feel inspired that day to write a post or whatever it is that's on your list of things to do, you're not going to feel inspired. And so that's where the habit building aspect comes in. So whether it's that you take your thing for the day and you build it into your morning routine so that you're going to make space for it, that's great. Or maybe if you're blog writing or writing social media content or even doing a video, you can still include it alongside your cup of coffee, which you know that you're not going to forget doing. And when it comes to things like building out a routine like this and habit building, we've talked here about how like, even though a specific task or a specific habit that you need to build, for example, writing your weekly email, that is obviously by definition not a daily task, right? It's a weekly email. So it can't be a daily task. But as you're building the habit, you need it to be a daily thing. Building a habit on a weekly basis just doesn't work. It just doesn't. So what I would suggest in that situation is if you're going to be doing a lot of research for this email, that you can break that up and make it a daily thing. But what I would say is, even if you think that in the future you're going to end up being like somebody that on Saturday or Sunday plans out the entire week and gets it all going, that's great. But as you're building the habit, I would say start doing it daily as you go. And so like maybe do the day before. So on Sunday, do your Monday content. On Monday, do your Tuesday, and so on, right? And this is why I love using Trello to help me plan, because I don't necessarily plan straight into the platform or into the scheduler for the platform. I plan in my Trello cards. I can add any images. I can, type out my thoughts and then kind of formulate them into more the actual social media caption or what's going to go into the email and all that. I can be planning as I go. But the point is that you set aside time every morning or lunchtime or evening whenever you know you can consistently show up for it, and you make it an appointment on your schedule. You start building that habit that way. You find the time that fits best into your flow, into your routine, so that then not only are you doing things that you love, but you're doing it at a time when you love doing it. So for me, it's almost always in the morning because I am definitely a morning inspiration person. And so you're almost always going to see me with my cup of coffee doing some aspect of my business, whether it's creating content or, scheduling things out or whatever it might be. It's always going to be alongside my cup of coffee. It's just how I work best. So not a whole lot of components there, but really it's just doing the things that you love and doing them when you love doing them. If you try to cram these aspects, these tasks in your business into the part of your day when you really wish you were doing something else, not only are you going to find it incredibly difficult to build that habit and grow that routine, but you're also going to find that the content that you put out, the quality is going to suffer big time, guys. Because if you don't feel inspired, if you feel resentful on any level that you're having to do this right now, it's going to come out through your content. It just is. Like, I'm hoping that you can feel right now how inspired and passionate I am to talk about this, which is why I'm a little bit more scattered than I normally am in this conversation, because it's just coming naturally out of me loving doing this and talking to you and loving doing it at this time and in this moment. And so, yeah, it may not be as polished. It may be a little bit messier, but at the same time, it's more real. It's more authentic, and it's more how I want to show up for you guys. So I just wanted to share these thoughts as I'm coming back from my trip, and just, these thoughts were coming through my mind as I was walking the dog this morning with my husband, and I was just like, oh, that's a perfect topic. I had another topic for this morning that I was going to film, but I wasn't feeling that inspired about it. And so this is where like shifting and having that flexibility comes in really handy, is that like I can just move my Trello cards around. That topic I was going to talk about, I'll talk about it in the future when I'm feeling more inspired about it. But this morning, this is what I wanted to talk about. And I know I didn't really talk about like how those components make your routine more flexible, but like they naturally do, because if you're building routine around things that you love and times that you love working and all of that, then that automatically lends itself for flexibility, right? When what you love changes, whether it's the actual content you're creating or the when that you do it, if you're working alongside the way that you naturally react to these things versus kind of trying to shove things in where they don't really fit, like shoving in a type of content creation that doesn't fit with who you are, or shoving it into a time of day where it just doesn't work for you, it'll be easy for you to find ways to shift and pivot either the type of content you're creating or the when you're doing it as your life shifts and adapts to whatever circumstances are coming at you. So all of that kind of goes hand in hand. But I do want to say one thing very, very clearly here. Just because I'm saying that you want to go along with what you feel and what you love and the time that you love doing it, I'm not saying that that means that you're following your feelings, okay? You are incorporating your feelings into structure and into routine. We are still sometimes not going to feel like it. We just are. You're not going to feel like creating that social post or filming that video or whatever it might be. You're not going to feel like getting up extra early so that you have time to do that thing that day. That's where self-discipline comes in. That's where we go back to what Mel Robbins tells us, which is like sometimes you have to show up anyway. Sometimes you have to do the thing. And she says like, do the thing that you don't like, do the thing that you hate. And yes, I agree with that. But right now I'm talking about after you've built the routine that you love, sometimes you still have to show up when you don't feel like it. And that's where her whole like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 kind of comes into play, the 5-second rule, right? Where you just like, you know what, I'm not feeling it right now, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm just going to sit down in front of the camera and start talking, which is a little bit what I did this morning because I was still kind of sleepy and, I wanted to talk to you guys, but I was not feeling the energy yet. Well, as I got talking, as you can tell, you probably saw my energy level grow while I'm talking to you. That is how it should be. That is how you should feel when you are creating your content. Even if you come at it from a place of, oh, I'm just not quite at that place yet. I'm not quite feeling it in this moment, but I'm just going to jump in and do it, do that thing that I love. Then that energy should build and grow and expand. And you should end up at the end like I am here, where you're so excited and so full of energy and passion for the thing that you're going to have to cut yourself off so that you don't ramble on for another 20 minutes. That's how I'm feeling right now. And that's how I know that not only am I doing what I love, but I'm doing it at the time that I love doing it. And even when I don't quite feel it, if I just have that self-discipline and show up anyway, show up for myself and show up for the routine that I've built, then this will flow out of me naturally. So now it's your turn. I want to know what you think about this. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you have a routine that feels good like this, that you love doing and that you love doing it when you're doing it? Or are you struggling with that? Let me know in the comments. I hope you liked that video, and more importantly, that you found it helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with a fellow solopreneur. And make sure you check out the description for links to how we can connect and maybe even work together.